Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from Mason Works Marketing and Conscious Business Zone today with Steve Farber. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Kathy, how are you?
Great. I'm so excited to talk with you today. I am really excited to hear what you want to share with us about conscious leadership and about your new book.
Well,
So
thank you.
I first want to let the audience know that I haven't gotten to meet Steve in person before. Most of the people that you see on Conscious Business Zone, I've hugged and spent time with. But I got to be with Steve's brother. I worked with Steve's brother 3 different times, and he kept telling me, you got to meet Steve. And so now we're virtually meeting, and I'm sure eventually we'll meet in person. Olivia's here. Hi, Olivia. So, so I wanted everyone to know that this family is remarkable. They are totally in their heart. They're in service. They're totally aware of the power that we all have, and they're making conscious choices to help and serve. So with that, Steve, how you've got this journey of being a leadership coach. How many years have you been doing that, and how did you get started?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess those two questions are related. I've been at this work of leadership development for 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 30 years.
I get it.
Thereabouts 30 years. It really kind of started in 88, 89. And, I started out as a business guy. I started out as a musician.
Right.
I play guitar and sang and write. And that's what I was going to do when I was a younger man. But then in 1981, I graduated college and I got married. And I married into my daughter, who was 4 when I married her mother.
Oh,
a year later, my son Saul came along. So I was 24 years old and I had 2 kids.
Wow.
And trying to be a musician. You see where this is headed?
Yeah. And I don't know why my printer's going on, but anyway.
Yeah. So I discovered that being a working musician and feeding people were mutually exclusive ideas. So that's when I went into business, and I didn't have any idea what that even meant, other than I had to make money. And I had a friend way back when who was in the commodities futures business.
Oh my gosh.
And he gave me a shot, and I needed a job. So I learned the ropes. And within a few years, I discovered I was an entrepreneur. I had my own small brokerage firm. And that's where I started to learn about what it means to be a business person. And even though I didn't necessarily use the terminology at the time, what it means to be a leader, because, I had a team. I had people that I hired, and I was responsible for everything that every young entrepreneur is responsible for, which means everything.
Right. Toilet cleaning too.
Yeah. The whole thing. Right. And there are aspects of it that I really loved, but the primary problem that I had with that business was that I hated it.
Right.
I hated that business because the nature of that business is people lose money.
That's right.
So, I would develop these great relationships with clients and see them get blown away. And so I had a moral dilemma with my own business, which is not a healthy place to be.
No.
So before I was 30 years old, I had started a business and I had shut it down. And I had, by the time 1988 came along, I had 3 kids and really no idea what I was supposed to be doing on this planet. So this is where my consciousness about leadership and my work started to come into play, because I knew there was something I was built to do. I knew there was something I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But I had absolutely no idea what it was. And I was really in a state of just being, it was a combination of being in despair and openness, because I was game for anything. It was like, just Just tell me what to do.
That's a conversation with God.
and then just through a series of conversations, I heard about somebody that I knew who was doing some kind of training, some kind of workshops for corporations. That's all I heard. And I am not exaggerating how this happened. All of my lights went on in that moment. And I knew right then, that's it. I don't know what that is, but I know that's it. Yeah. So that's when I started exploring and discovered there's a whole industry of, kind of adult education, and lots of companies that did that. And I got hired by a small consulting company back in 1988, 89. And I started doing this kind of work, which over many years now, evolved into a focus on leadership. So where that journey led me was, I have now, at this point in my career, worked with every kind of industry that you can imagine, every kind of company that you can imagine, in various parts of the globe, oftentimes from top to bottom, to create cultures of leadership. So this is what I do. I've written, my fourth book. It's called Love is Just Damn Good Business, just came out. Yeah. And, I do a lot of keynote speaking, and we have a company called the Extreme Leadership Institute, where we do ongoing training and consulting and culture change process. So been at it for a while. That's a long answer to a short question.
Oh, it's great. It's great. So I watched a whole bunch of your videos so that I could get a feel, and I already felt like I knew you just because of family, but I have to say that this journey that we're on, you're very courageous. I think we're at the cutting edge of a new kind of model, a new paradigm of leadership that allows you to be in a circle rather than a pyramid, where the leader isn't up here. It's really, they've talked about team leadership, they've talked about the servant leader, but the models, the systems really haven't been there. But now we're really getting to a different language. The actual English language, the common language, has words, yoga's in it now. So consciousness, balance, and paradigm change. I mean, Joel Barker did the paradigm change stuff in the 80s. Yeah. Where, I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
Yeah.
I like to watch his videos. Basically, for the audience, if you don't know who Joel Barker is, he did a series of VHS videos way back then that were sold, and way back then they were $800. So he was something else. I mean, he was really taking top level people and getting them to realize that when a paradigm changes, everything goes back to zero. And what that means is that if you had your flip phone and then you get an iPhone, the iPhone, because the paradigm and the quality and the functionality is so much better, that everything goes back to zero, and the iPhone is the new paradigm. And the flip phone, only some people still have them, but it's like a tricorder. But anyway, so that's what I think you're doing with this Love is Good Business. And your leadership is, you're creating this new paradigm that is all about identifying the gift in everyone in your team and utilizing it, correct?
Yeah, well, thank you. I'll accept that as a great compliment. And I'm the first to say that I'm certainly not the only one in this conversation, nor is this the first time that it's been talked about. It's been growing for a long time. So way back, my first book was called The Radical Leap.
Right.
It came out in 2004, and LEAP is a framework that stands for love, energy, audacity, and proof. So I've been teaching this for quite some time, but even before The Radical Leap came out, I'm going to say it was probably 2002, maybe. Tim Sanders wrote a book called Love is the Killer App.
Right.
And it was a big hit and made a big splash. So these ideas have been percolating out there for a long time, but what I've seen happen is there's an overall trend line, I think, in business where it is becoming more conscious. We're talking more about the importance of meaningful work and making a difference and having an impact in and through the products and services that we offer and the kinds of cultures that we create. So this has been happening for a long time, but it's been a long time, I think, since somebody really put the focus on love as the foundation for this whole thing, and then slapped it on a book cover.
Right.
So in that regard, I hope that I'm stirring things up, and I think it is a new paradigm. It's a paradigm that, some paradigms shift just like that. It's like it's like a phase transition.
Right.
And some, there's a gradual thing, and then there's a tipping point. And I'm hoping that we're near that tipping point where we don't view love anymore as some kind of abstract, soft, California touchy-feely hoo-ha crap. that instead we begin to view it as what it really is, the most powerful human experience.
Right.
And business is a profoundly human endeavor. And in this whole idea that somehow we have to cut off our humanity and limit our compassion in order to be effective business people and to be successful, and to prosper is absurd. And it's something that we just over many decades convinced ourselves is true, and there's really no basis for it. So I think what I'm trying to do in this book is lay it out as clear as it can be, and then just show example after example after example after example of how people are doing this. People, individual leaders and companies,
Yeah.
and invite everybody to put more attention on it and operationalize love
Right.
in the way that you work.
Okay, so that's what I'd like to ask about, is the system of it, because it seems like for a while there, when Covey came out and it was like the new business philosophy of the month, I was with Arthur Anderson running the change enablement group during all of that time.
Yeah, I remember Arthur Anderson. Yeah, that was a company once upon a time.
No, don't get. I left before.
Okay.
But anyway,
You didn't bring him down by yourself, huh?
no.
Oh, okay.
It's a conversation we could have. Actually, there's a real interesting storyline behind the whole thing that really wasn't publicized.
Yeah.
That it was actually internal that caused all that. But anyway, what I'm saying is that it got so that for constant learners like us, it got that you'd read a book and there was a new idea, a new philosophy every single day.
Yes.
Or once a week. And then the poor employees were going, oh, there they go again. Here's, and I was in the change enablement group. So you can imagine that's mergers and acquisitions and integrating cultures, when a lot of times there were a lot of layoffs. So tremendous fear, but still these, and different operating systems. A lot of times that was what we were doing. And but now it seems like it's settled down to more fast. Everything's fast. It's like speed, and I think we're going to have a backlash back to love. I really see that. What the I don't know if you read the book. What is it? It's over here somewhere. Stealing Fire. There it is. Stealing Fire. That anyway. There's the 40-year-olds that are trying to get the 60-year-olds jobs, who are in top management, are trying to figure out the other paradigm, the better, faster, more efficient, more brilliant way. And the 60-year-olds are trying to hold on to their job and use their wonderful experience to nurture and grow. But there's this, you've got four generations in the workplace right now.
Yeah.
So how do you see the leader, and a lot of times it's a mature lead our age, mature leader.
Yeah. I like the way you say that. That's good.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't know. Anyway, how do you see this evolution? Because you can feel you can feel it changing. It's not just watching from afar. It's something's emerging right now, and
Yeah.
I think that's your love is damn good business is what's emerging.
Yeah, I think that's right. But there's a couple things.
Okay.
Everything you just described was equally true back in the early 90s. I remember the conversations, what do we do with these? What do we call them? Gen Xers. Right? These people, they don't want a job for life. They want to come here and work for a little while and then go on and work at a better job. That's when Apple started saying, we don't promise you a job for life. We promise you that you're going to be more marketable after you spend time here. Right? That conversation started. I remember this vividly because 1994 was when I joined the Tom Peters company.
Oh.
And, I was vice president of Tom's company for 6.5 years. You didn't know that, huh?
No. Well, I think I did, but I forgot. But no, I'm very impressed.
Yeah. So Tom was, for the uninitiated tuning in, Tom was really still one of the great management thinkers of our day.
Yes.
And he was the mouthpiece of the generation. Actually, my title at the Tom Peters company was vice president and official mouthpiece. But Tom was really the mouthpiece, and that's the conversation that was starting back then. We've got to do meaningful work and make a difference, and make sure that people are growing individually and contributing to the company. And that's how you get great talent. That's how you keep great talent. And it's more than the money, even though the money is important. All this stuff we've been talking about for so long. And then, this generational divide between, the old guard at the time, the baby boomers and the Gen Xers. And so now, fast forward to today, it's the same thing, right? Except now the Gen Xers are a little bit on the older side. And then you've got these millennials with their phones and their internet and their social media. And so it's always this way. And we always have a great opportunity, therefore. It's a beautiful thing because each generation can learn from the other, right? We have so much to learn from native technology users, kids that have literally grown up with, a piece of glass in their hand, to those of us who have been around a little bit longer and seen ups and downs and seen things come and go. And there's a certain level of wisdom that comes with just being on this planet for a while, right? So we have this wonderful opportunity to learn from each other and we can make use of that as long as there is a willingness to learn from each other.
Right.
And I think there is. My experience tells me that the vast majority of people want to have meaningful work and want to love what they do and want to enjoy the experience of working on their team and want to create things that are going to make a positive difference in the world around them. But this has been brewing, it's been percolating for 20 some years. And that's a great thing. Now, the other thing I wanted to comment on, Kathy, is that what we're hearing a lot today about, speed and efficiency, again, same thing. It's be speedy, be fast, or die. I mean, that's what we were talking about that again in the 90s.
Right.
It is it's probably more true today, certainly no less true today. And Stephen M.R. Covey wrote, The Speed of Trust. Yeah. And this is the point that I'm coming to. These ideas of speed, efficiency, innovation, organizational brilliance, and love are not mutually exclusive, right? It's not that, well, do we want to do this love thing or do we want to be fast? It's the wrong question.
Right.
It's how do we leverage and practice and operationalize love in the way that we work in order to give us that kind of lightning speed.
Perfect.
That speed of trust, as Covey talks about.
Right. And that's where the systems within the values of the company and of the leadership and of the systems that they put in place that allow those values to be demonstrated. So I have a question. This is great. Thank you so much. This is just exactly what I'm hoping to hear. I love this. What do you think is the biggest challenge for the leader who wants to lead from this level, whether they're top leadership or middle leadership? What do you see is the biggest challenge that they have?
I think it's a very individual question that we've got to look at on a couple of different levels. Okay. So one of those challenges is, and this is a word you've used several times, it's systemic, right? It's about weaving love into the way that we do business. Right. And what that means is it has implications for everything from the kind of people that we hire and how we hire them, to the way that we make decisions, to the way that we communicate internally, to the way that we live by our values in the organization, to our customer policies and procedures, right? Right. So if I'm looking at it from an operational level, in a bigger company, that's going to be the bigger challenge because of the size and because of the sweeping nature of the work, right? You have a lot of people that need to be enlisted in this. Right. So that's one challenge in a category of its own. But if you look at it on the other end of that, individual to organizational spectrum, look at it from the individual side. What do I need to do as a leader in position or not? So leadership's got nothing to do with your position or title. Right. It has to do with your ability to influence and make a difference, right? Right. So you don't have to have a title of leader to lead. Exactly. But it's still a choice. So if I choose to lead, that means that I'm choosing to stick my neck out and strive to make this place better from wherever I am in the organization or in the business. Okay. Obviously, if I'm an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, it does impact, by definition, the entire business. But from that level, there's not a lot of a challenge to this because it has to do with how you operate and how you connect with people. And there are things that you can do right now, regardless of the bureaucracy that you may be a part of or the culture in which you're operating, the macro culture. Right. You have your micro culture in you and your team and the way that you work. So the challenge is on that level is more of a personal accountability thing. Right. So there's this whole broad spectrum, but the way to get at the start or the root of this thing, no matter where you are on that spectrum, is really by asking a very simple question of yourself. Okay. Of yourself and then ultimately of the company. So the question is, personally, it starts with, well, why do I love this business or this team? Okay. It starts with just that very personal question. So you're looking for where your fire is burning, right? Because that's where your raw material comes from. That's where your inspiration comes from. And you can't engage or inspire or motivate anybody else unless you have it yourself first. So start with that exploration, but then take that question and focus it in different ways. Like, why do we love our customers, employees? That's part one. Part two, and this is where it gets behavioral and practiced and what's the word? Systematized, operationalized. It's by answering this question: what should that look like in the way that we do business? Let's see. So if I say I love my customers, like every company does, right? How many banners have you seen that say we love our customers and buttons? You're the center of our universe, and that kind of. That's easy. But if we really did love our customers, what would we do differently? How can we better show our customers that we love them? That's a really powerful question. Right. And in answering that question, you're going to come up with everything from campaigns to systemic policy changes. Right. It's looking at everything that we do and say, does this show our customers that we love them? And does this show our employees that we love them? Yeah. And if not, how do we change it?
Right.
That's how we do it. So there's not like, these are the 6 things that you need to do to operationalize love in your business. There's probably 1,000 things to do, but you have to come up with them. Right. And the way that you come up with them is by challenging yourself to answer that question, but also by just hearing and seeing as many examples as you can from lots of people and lots of different businesses. And that's gonna trigger some ideas for you. So that's what we've jammed full, that the book is jammed full of that sort of a thing. But it really, the challenge comes with acknowledging that this is not some kind of a frivolous activity, right, that this is really just damn good business, and then put some attention on it and see where that takes you.
Right. It's perfect because business is done with other people. It's all about relationship. And once you try to mechanize and digitalize everything and take out the people part, people do business with people.
Exactly.
The other thing I wanted to bring up is I think social media has been a big part of this change, and I love social media. I do a lot of it, so I'm happy about that, because originally there was a persona like your LinkedIn persona, which corporate in your blue blazer, blah blah blah, and then
I like that blue blazer, blah blah blah. That's a good alliteration.
Yep. And then there was Facebook, or back then there was whatever. So you've got these two dichotomy, I can be this way fun and happy and show my kids and my dog and my cat and play the guitar like you do on Facebook, but on LinkedIn, I've got the corporate thing going, and it's all blown up. It's all now be authentically who you are. And I think that's a values. I think that it comes down to fortifying and acknowledging your personal values is the glue that helps people get through what will they think about this, or is this okay to post on Facebook, because it's there forever until the account comes down. So I want you to know, Zach wrote a really long thing that I'm not sure I want to read the whole thing now, but he's talking about that he was born in the 1960, and he's followed tech to his advantage. He does virtual reality and stuff. He's a physicist. And he said, bring in the heart-based business model as soon as possible. I would also add that labels divide and generalize people in an unproductive way. Yes, you're right. And then Olivia put love is the accelerator, yay, which she knows very well.
She does. She knows that better than most of us.
She's fabulous. And then Zach put, from the love perspective, the great equalizer is the commonality of soul.
Yeah, beautiful. So let me speak to Zach's comment for a second.
Okay.
So I've done a lot of work with scientists and engineers over the decades, and there is this stereotype, and this speaks to Zach's point about labels. There's this stereotype about engineer and scientist types that says we don't do that people thing. In fact,
but
you know what would be great? Get the people out of here so I can get my work done.
Introverted.
Because that's what I love. So there's, and I know that's just a stereotype, right? And like any stereotype, there's some elements of truth to it. But the minute you overgeneralize and say that, engineers are not going to be interested in this sort of thing, and scientists are not going to be interested in this sort of thing. And obviously that's not what Zach is saying, because he's saying I'm a physicist and I see how important this is. And that's my point. That's true for all of us. It doesn't matter what the label or the role is. We all carry our stereotypes. Marketing people have the stereotype, particularly salespeople, as being the, gregarious, boisterous, extrovert kind of people. And yeah, a lot of salespeople are, but they're all labels. And when you get beneath the label, what we want as human beings is we want lives of meaning, and we want joy, and we want to make a difference, and we want to love what we do.
Right.
If you give anybody the choice, would you rather go to work and be miserable or go to work and love it? I mean, it's obvious, right? And if you're miserable at work, do you think you're going to do better work or subpar work if you're miserable than opposed to if you really love your job and love being with your team, et cetera? It's obvious. So we all know it. We all know it.
Well,
we have to put it into practice, regardless of what whatever label other people are trying to slap on us.
Well, the hierarchy where the engineer or the scientist is working separate, and then there's the manufacturing team, or there's the implementation team, and there's this hierarchy where they're gods, and these are the peons, that the serfs, royalty and the serfs go do it. I think that whole thing is breaking up, and again, it's because of the authenticity that we're all showing up as, and that it just doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't work.
So to your point about social media from a few minutes ago and authenticity and all that. So you're right. Authenticity is the key to this whole thing. You can't fake it. People have a pretty good bullshit meter. They know when you're faking it.
Yeah.
Right. So this isn't about pretending to be authentic, which is, of course, the ultimate paradox or oxymoron, I should say. And that happens a lot with social media, as we all know. It's putting on the happy face and everything is great, because I'm not going to, take a picture of myself when I'm, when I'm hungover and I've got one foot out the window. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is that dynamic of, the downside is it's setting up this false expectation that for everybody has perfect lives except me. And we all have imperfect lives. This is not about perfection.
Right.
And there is, our ability at work in a business context, our ability to be who we are in the context of that work and to bring ourselves fully to that work is a very powerful thing, because people respond to that. They see it. It's palpable. When somebody is fully themselves and doing great work, right? So if I'm being fully myself at work, and that self is irresponsible and lazy, that may be authentic, but it's not going to work in my business, right? So you can take that authenticity and bring it somewhere else, right? I'm not going to pay you for that.
Right.
So let's not forget the business context for this. What I've found, here's what I've seen, and there's lots of studies that I think support this from different angles. People who love their work and love their business and love their customer, and we measure it with things like, for example, engagement surveys, right? People that are really engaged do better work and have higher expectations of one another. So I think what holds us back sometimes is this feeling that, this means if everybody's going to love everybody all the time, that means, we never challenge anybody, and, whatever you do is okay, or not, that's fine, because I love you, do whatever you want. That is not what this is. If I love this business, paradoxically, my tolerance level can actually drop. My tolerance for underperformance, my tolerance for apathy, my tolerance for not following through drops because I love this place. So this is about raising expectations, raising standards, raising the level of accountability that we hold ourselves and others to. And to do that authentically versus the antiquated top down, as you said in the beginning, pyramid, whatever metaphor you want to use, royalty and serfs and peasants or cogs in the machine or whatever.
It is industrial.
That influences us because that's been around for a long time, and we're having, I think, little by little, we're looking at that more consciously and saying, no, that's just something we decided to believe. It doesn't make anything better. It's just so time to throw that away. Not that some level of hierarchy is not important. I mean, it depends on your business. Just from an organizing principle,
Right.
that makes sense. But to say that I make all the decisions, you follow my orders, and that's antiquated.
Right. Right. So so many thoughts are coming up for me as you're speaking. What you're talking about is a different type of leader, and actually someone being courageous enough to be that kind of leader. How do you help people be courageous to show up as this authentic, love-filled, well, actually energized? That when you're saying love is good business, it's the energy that you're creating by the flow of being in the flow, and the excitement is a whole different thing. How do you help people be in that?
So there's a number of things there. The LEAP framework that you see behind my head there, stands for love, energy, audacity, and proof. So it ties together this way. Love generates energy, love inspires audacity, and love requires proof. So energy is exactly what you said. If I love what I do, I'm more energized to do greater things.
Yep.
Audacity I define as a bold and blatant disregard for normal constraints in order to change things for the better.
Okay.
So it's not think outside the box. It's more like what box.
Right.
So if I really love this place, it inspires me to be audacious in the pursuit of our goals. And proof is where it all comes home to roost, right? We prove ourselves through the results that we get, and we prove ourselves through the congruence between our words and our actions.
Right.
I prove that I mean what I say by following through with my actions, right?
Right.
So that whole model is really important, and I do lay that out in the book, and I've been teaching this for 20 years now. But to great effect, by the way, there's companies that are implementing that and getting phenomenal results. But the idea here is that in order to take action that we haven't taken before, or in order to take action that seems counter to the culture that I'm operating in,
right,
involves risk.
That's right.
Because there's no guarantees on any of this. And taking a risk requires courage. So to your question, so now I get that I'm a context guy, right?
Yeah.
So now that I put that in context,
Okay.
How do we get more courage? Again, I think, first of all, that's very relative. I mean, some people, it's a great, courageous act to do what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
The thought of going on Facebook Live is terrifying to, I would say, the vast majority of people. Now put a live element to that, a real live element, as in, in front of a group of living, breathing people that are sucking up your oxygen. That's terrifying to most people.
Yeah.
To me, that's great fun, right?
Oh,
so it takes no courage for me to do that.
Right.
But it'd be very courageous for somebody who's terrified of it, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's relative. So what it starts with is, what is it that you want to do? So let me offer a question. And if you got a place to write it down, folks, this would be something to write down.
Okay.
Because it's a question to ask yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll do it bit by bit. What can I do right now,
mm-hmm.
regardless of what anybody else around me is or is not doing,
mm-hmm.
to change my piece of this enterprise for the better? What can I do right now, regardless of what anybody else around here is or is not doing, to change my piece of this enterprise for the better? That is a powerful leadership question. Okay. That can be answered from any position, no matter how high up on the pyramid you are, or wherever you are throughout the roles and responsibilities in your organization. So that's a leadership question. Just being willing to ask that question takes courage.
Right.
For all of us, no matter our position or title. Okay. Right. Now, right. That's going to help you get clear on what it is that you really believe, what the idea that you love, right? That what do you really believe needs to change around here.
Right.
Stepping up to follow through on that
That's
is what courage looks like. So here's the principle that anybody that's been following my work for a while has heard me say this before. It's about living in pursuit of what I call the OSM, which is spelled capital O, capital S, exclamation mark, capital M.
okay.
That stands for the oh shit moment. So the thing is, what holds us back is we tend to think that fear is always a sign that something is wrong.
No.
That fear is not not the kind of experience that we want. So if I'm going to step up and take a risk, I'm going to experience that OSM.
Right.
Right. Oh shit, I'm really doing this.
Yeah.
And what I'm suggesting is that that's a good thing. So it's about reframing our interpretation of our own experience. This is, oh, that's the OSM. That means I should move towards it, not away from it.
Exactly.
And that's what leadership is. There's no such thing as leadership without the OSM. So instead of thinking about this idea that, you think it'd be really great, but you haven't done anything about it because, what if it goes wrong? But you've talked to the right people and you've done the research. You're really convinced this is a good idea. You're not being, irresponsible, but you still haven't done it. And if you ask yourself, why haven't I done it? And the only answer that you get back from yourself to yourself is because I'm scared to, then that's the reason to do it.
Exactly.
That's what I call that's being in pursuit of the OSM. And it's something, it's like a muscle that we can build up over time. And we find that we take on bigger challenges and we look around and say, wow, I guess that used to feel, this thing that I'm doing now, it used to feel courageous. Now it's like taking a walk in the park.
Yeah.
That's a sign of growth. That's a really good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a part of this authenticity too, is when you really are clear and get your values in order, then you really know that all of those things are stepping stones to that. And there's a guy, Maurice put, and I don't want to butcher his last name, so I'm just
I'll butcher it for you. Thibodeau.
Yes. Oh, thank you. He put, it sounds like when we start with love as the foundational business principle / discipline, it seems everything else follows, And if the DNA of a business is built with love, it makes sense that the outputs of that business in every sense will be lovely.
Yeah. Beautifully said, Maurice.
Thank you.
Yes. So this is the thing. As entrepreneurs, so entrepreneurs who are starting a new company, let's say, or they start with a small team and they're looking ahead to the kind of enterprise they want to build over time. A big mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make is culture takes a back seat. It's like, right now I got to worry about, all the operational stuff and getting my little piece of the market and getting funding and all that. And that's all really important stuff. But we ignore culture at our peril, because every place, including a company of one person, has a culture. The question is it the culture that you want? And is it the culture that's going to serve you? So if I'm starting a company, I have an opportunity right from the very beginning to build love as an imperative into the very DNA of my company. So that's a wonderful opportunity. On the other hand, if you've been in business for a while and you look around and you go like, there's no love here. That's a different kind of a challenge, but it's still foundational. So once that's established, it really does affect everything that we do. So in the book, there's a couple things I start out with. One is there are basically three categories of people that, as far as I can tell, as it relates to love in business. one category that says, no, has no place here. Business is a purely rational, cold, sterile, heartless, brutal endeavor. I'm exaggerating that a little bit, but there are people that say love has no place. The other category is love is a nice to have, not necessary for business, but it's nice to have. And there's another category, which I am a proud member of, that says, no, it's not a nice to have, it's a must have.
Yeah.
And it's a must have because it is the thing that affects all other things. It's the experience that affects all other experiences. It's the approach that affects all other approaches. And therefore there's tremendous leverage in it. And we just have to start experimenting.
So when you help people, you have workshops and trainings as well as books and e-courses. How, if people want, do you recommend that they start with reading the books, or how should they start to learn more and then figure out how to work with you? Because I think all of my clients would love this, mainly because these are different times, and really people are looking for that aha, like they're searching, and they don't really have the success formula. And it is the missing piece of how do I integrate the heart and work from there rather than just here. I mean, because true value, when you value somebody's work, it's this. It's, I mean,
it's both and, for sure. Yeah.
Well, the information age has allowed so much information to be available on every subject to confusion. And but the connection of the fact that I might really care that you're successful, and I might really be there as a support as you're being successful, that's the difference.
Yeah. So there are a number of ways that I and my team can help you to do that.
Okay.
Excuse me. So obviously the book, Love is Just Damn Good Business.
Yeah.
You just pop over to Amazon, get yourself a copy. The audio book, I've recorded it already. So I narrated it. It turned out great. It's from McGraw-Hill. That's the publisher. So we're waiting for them to release it. Should be within the next 2 weeks, from what I understand. First half of October is what they're telling me. But in the meantime, you can get it on Kindle or hardcover, of course. And that's a good primer for everything that we've been talking about. And then at stevefarber.com, you'll see what I do. You'll my keynote speaking. But we also license and certify people to teach the Extreme Leadership Workshop.
Oh, great.
We also do some very extensive, very deep, ongoing training and consulting and culture change processes and that kind of a thing. So we will do multi-year engagements with companies to help them do what we're talking about here, to operationalize it into every aspect of their business. It's really exciting stuff. My team, and including the president of our company, Jenna Lynch, this woman has, in her career, has brought 28 companies onto the best place to work list.
Wow.
Yeah. Or help them to do that in a significant way. So that's what we do. We have a whole process around that takes love, energy, audacity, and proof and applies it to whatever it is that you're trying to do in your company.
Wow,
so there's a whole lot of things. So Steve at stevefarber.com is my email address. stevefarber.com is the place to be. We have just retooled and we're about to relaunch the Extreme Leadership Institute website.
Oh, wow. I want to
which will be at extremeleadershipinstitute.com.
Okay.
And that should be live hopefully within the next week or two. It's really good. I'm really excited about it. It's beautiful. So yes, lots of ways to get involved. Maurice, as a matter of fact, just recently went through our certification program that ended last week. So he is a newly minted certified facilitator, as is Olivia.
Right.
We're both in the same cohort just last week. Yeah.
Oh, so wonderful. Well,
So
yeah.
and then the only other thing I would say at this moment, and again, this page will be live soon. There's a placeholder for it. if you go to stevefarber.com and you see the tab that says events, our Extreme Leadership Experience, which is our annual confab of extreme leaders, will be the last weekend in February. In fact, the last 3 days of February, 27, 28, 29 here in San Diego, to be in Carlsbad. And that is a remarkable experience. And it's a little bit bigger of a group. I'm going to say probably about 150 people or so will be at this one.
Yeah. Well, it's a leap year.
It's a leap year, exactly. That's where I was going next. Not only is it a leap year, but we're doing it on leap day, is the last day of the conference. So thanks for picking up on that. I get very excited about it. Hey, you know what it is? It's a leap year. Like, oh, that's cute. That's clever.
Yeah, no, it's really important. Every 4 years you got to wait to the next one. So that's fantastic. So I have one other quick question for you, just to think about, that I think would help. So everyone's saying it's wonderful. You've got aloha here. We've got people. Anyway, what I wanted to ask was this, the issue of entitlement that so many corporations have to deal with their employees. Do you find that when you put love at work, when you change the way the leadership is working with their employees, that entitlement changes? It seems to be an American issue.
Yeah. So it's just like anything else. We've got to take a look at what works and what doesn't work. And if by entitlement you mean I get the perks and the opportunities simply because I've been here a long time.
I mean, they don't necessarily give it their all. They're not slackers, but close. They're sliding through. They're doing the minimum instead of the excitement of how much can I help, and how much can I make a difference.
Sure.
And I do.
So again, this is going to be very situational. Depends on the person. I think the danger, the trap that is kind of looming there for all of us is to make assumptions, jump to conclusions as to why that might be, right? So, this person, they don't work very hard. They've been here for a long time. They think they're entitled. Maybe they're just bored. Maybe they don't understand how they're making a difference. Maybe they think they're just going through the motions, and the reason they're there is only to collect the paycheck. That's an issue that's discoverable, for one thing. We could find that out, and there's a remedy to it. Because again, most people, there are lazy people, no question about it.
Right.
But most people want to do interesting, meaningful work.
Right.
And sometimes we just get so used to seeing somebody in a particular box or filling a particular niche in the company that we assume that that's all they want to do. That's all they're capable of. And it shuts down the conversation. So that's the generic thing that I would say is don't jump to conclusions. And then listen, if you do the whole exploration and what you come out with is that this person, they just want to do the bare minimum.
They got to go.
They do it really, really well. The question is that okay? And maybe it is.
I see.
Maybe it's okay because they do really, really well. And that's really important to us. But then we shouldn't be counting on them for, stepping up anymore. On the other hand, if the company has changed and the business has changed, and the landscape has changed, and that's not good enough anymore,
they got to go.
They might have to go.
Right.
But don't jump to that conclusion. I think is really the bottom line here for all of us.
Okay. So it sounds like you're going to have a tribe, an army of people that are extreme leadership experts and can help tons of companies shift. And that is so exciting, Steve. Thank you so much. This is
my pleasure.
This is exactly what we need in our changing society, and to bring more love and more it's co-creative work together, because that's what we're here for, in my opinion. That's what a conscious company is all about.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. I love the conversation. I hope we get to talk again soon. And this was just wonderful. And I definitely, I'm sorry I haven't bought your book yet, but I will. And I will buy both of them. Or several of them, because I want the Leap one too. So
Great. Well,
anyway,
thank you, Kathy. I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun.
yeah, thank you. Okay, so we're going to sign off. And
Bye, everybody.
everybody, if you have questions, please go to stevefarber.com. And this is big stuff, you guys. This is happening right now. You came here to be here during this time to see all these changes. This is happening right now. We're changing the world one company at a time. So thank you, Steve. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Bye-bye.